Colonial era. The history of what is now the United States began long before it became an independent nation. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, European explorers, most notably Christopher Columbus, opened the Americas to European colonization. While Spain, France, and the Netherlands were early players in colonizing the New World, it was Great Britain that established the first successful settlements. In the mid-1600s, the English founded their first permanent colonies in what is now the United States, with Virginia and Massachusetts being among the earliest. These colonies developed economically and culturally, though they faced conflicts with the indigenous peoples who already inhabited the land. During this time, a diverse range of cultures, religions, and traditions began to take root in the Americas, laying the foundation for the country's future. The fight for independence. By the mid-18th century, the British colonies in America had become a significant economic and political force. However, many colonists grew frustrated with British rule, particularly over issues like high taxes and laws imposed without representation in Parliament. This dissatisfaction led to protests, such as the famous Boston Tea Party of 1773, in which colonists threw British tea into the harbor in protest of the Tea Act. Tensions escalated, and in 1775, fighting broke out in Lexington and Concord, marking the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. In 1776, the colonies declared their independence from Great Britain with the signing of the Declaration of Independence, authored by Thomas Jefferson. Under the leadership of General George Washington, the Continental Army fought against the British, and in 1783, the war ended with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, which recognized the United States as an independent nation. Building a new nation. After gaining independence, the United States had to create a new political system. In 1787, the U.S. Constitution was drafted, establishing the framework for a federal republic. The Constitution laid out principles of democracy, federalism, and individual rights. That same year, the Bill of Rights was added, which enumerated fundamental freedoms such as freedom of speech, religion, and the press. The early years of the new nation were also marked by rapid territorial expansion, as settlers moved westward and the U.S. acquired new lands through treaties and purchases, such as the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. The U.S. began to evolve into a more industrialized and interconnected nation, though regional differences, especially over the issue of slavery, soon began to strain the Union. Westward expansion and the Civil War. Throughout the 19th century, the United States expanded its territory further west. Following the acquisition of the Louisiana Territory, the U.S. continued to grow, with new territories being added to the Union. This expansion, however, came at the expense of indigenous peoples, who were forcibly relocated, and led to conflicts with neighboring nations, such as Mexico. As the nation expanded, it became increasingly divided over the issue of slavery. The southern states relied on slavery for their agricultural economy, while the North began to industrialize and oppose the practice. Tensions reached a breaking point in the 1860s, leading to the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. The war was fought between the Union, the North, and the Confederacy, the South, with the primary issue being the abolition of slavery. The Union emerged victorious in 1865, and slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. The post-war period, known as Reconstruction, was a time of rebuilding the South and integrating it back into the Union, while also addressing the rights of newly freed African Americans. Industrialization and immigration. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the United States underwent rapid industrialization. The rise of factories, railroads, and technological innovations transformed the country into an economic powerhouse. The invention of the telephone, the automobile, and electricity revolutionized daily life and opened up new opportunities. At the same time, millions of immigrants arrived in the U.S., drawn by the promise of a better life. Immigrants from Europe, Asia, and other regions contributed to the country's growing diversity, although this influx sometimes led to social tensions and discrimination. Despite the economic boom, the United States also faced significant challenges, including widespread poverty, child labor, and poor working conditions. Labor movements gained momentum, pushing for better wages and working conditions, and calling for reforms in the economy. World wars and the rise of global power. The United States entered World War I in 1917, after initially maintaining a stance of neutrality. The country's involvement tipped the scales in favor of the Allied powers, and the war ended in 1918. However, the aftermath of the war left the world in turmoil, and the U.S. struggled with economic instability, culminating in the Great Depression of the 1930s. The Great Depression led to sweeping reforms under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, aimed at stabilizing the economy and providing relief to Americans suffering from unemployment and poverty. In 1941, following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States entered World War II, joining the Allies against Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan. The U.S. played a crucial role in the defeat of the Axis powers, and after the war, emerged as one of the two superpowers, alongside the Soviet Union, in what became known as the Cold War. The Cold War era. The Cold War, which lasted from the late 1940s to the early 1990s, was a period of geopolitical tension between the US and the Soviet Union. Although the two superpowers never fought directly, the Cold War was marked by proxy wars, nuclear arms races, and ideological battles. The US sought to contain the spread of communism, while the Soviet Union sought to expand its influence. The Cold War saw major events such as the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Despite these challenges, the United States emerged victorious with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, solidifying its position as the world's leading political and economic power. The modern era. In the 21st century, the United States faced new challenges, including the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, which led to the War on Terror and the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. The attacks also sparked significant changes in domestic and foreign policy, including increased security measures and surveillance. The U.S. has remained a global leader in technology, culture, and economics. The digital age has brought new innovations, making the country a hub for tech companies, while social, political, and cultural changes continue to shape the nation. The United States remains a land of opportunity and diversity, a place where people from all over the world seek to make a new life. However, it also faces significant challenges, including political polarization, economic inequality, and ongoing debates over immigration, race, and social justice. Conclusion. The history of the United States is a story of resilience, growth, and constant reinvention. From its struggle for independence to its emergence as a global power, the country has faced numerous obstacles, yet it continues to evolve and shape the world around it. Its journey is far from over, but its path to greatness is a testament to the strength, determination,